Hi friends, welcome to our peaceful harvest, relaxation, breath work, and a bit of mantra meditation. I have my mat and a blanket, a shawl for covering up, 2 blocks and a belt. If you don't have all of these things, no worries, you can improvise and find whatever you have around the house to help you, maybe a towel or a cushion or a pillow. And of course I have my trusty beeswax candle to help clean the air and spread the negative ions. As we know, we have too many positive ions, most of us in our lives, so we need to balance that out with nature. And my little spider plant to clean the air as well. Well, lots of spider plants actually. So come, let's do a bit of relaxation. When we left off on our last video, we had been doing some challenging work, so it's important to follow that up with some downtime, so of course you know your body can absorb all that you've done. And it's a good reminder for us modern folks that rest is important. Many of us weren't brought up with that idea in our lives at all, and so much so that when I first started doing yoga, I've really figured out after all this time, I had no idea what rest was. My body knew sleep, and usually it was, oh, thank goodness, she stopped and we can sleep now. So let's see, we need to release your back a bit. I'm going to have my belt nearby, and I'm going to place my blocks near the top of my mat so they're there for me, because we'll be supporting you in a restorative pose. And you know the blocks have 3 different levels, so you'll experiment with that a bit when we get there. And yeah, we need to release your back. So my shawl is nearby, my belt is nearby, and I'm going to take my blanket. Typically it's folded this way, and instead, so the short way I suppose, instead I'm going to fold it the long way, and then I'll have a nice long rectangle. And this rectangle is going to be caught between my knees and my ankles. So you could do that right now, or you can just keep the blanket next to you and do that once you find your way down to the mat. And I like to lower in slow motion just to give that core area a little more attention. Our mixed level 3 practice in the last video had a lot of attention there. And so that's good for these times when we might be enjoying our delicious food a bit more, to burn, to have the inner fire burning, the Agni, and that gets your digestion going just right, right? So just promise me there's nothing to crash into behind you. Lift your hands and begin lowering in slow motion as you wish, imagining one vertebra releasing at a time, letting that Agni, the inner fire, work a little more for you, and then releasing all the way down to the mat. Keep your knees bent, press the back of the head into the mat. You might have to move your blocks back a little and give those knees a nice big hug in. You might have to adjust your clothing if there's anything in the way. Lift your head and heart, hold your elbows, almost your elbows, squeeze it all in, squeeze it all out, and now rest your head, release your arms to the side and push your feet forward. And now pull the knees in. Notice your breathing, see if you can exhale, extend, and inhale, pull in. You might switch the breath and see which you prefer. I feel as if I'm doing more work on the butterfly, and then I want to gather more breath on the chrysalis, so that gives me permission to switch the breath from what I typically do. The hands are not touching the floor, the feet are not touching the floor, and you might start with your feet reaching up and forward, and eventually your feet will reach more forward, and your hands I believe we already said, will not touch the floor. So just a little reminder there. If they're touching, they're not. Next time you move into the winged or winged creature, your moth, lots of beautiful moths in New Jersey, or your butterfly. And breathing, remembering time inside our cocoon, time inside our chrysalis, time to let things simmer and let the creative juices find their way, where we don't have the answers, but we know they're coming. The waiting time, or the supporting time, or the time it takes to have courage because maybe you don't like being still and going within and really listening to the messages, and having patience with all of that. And maybe we welcome those still moments, those quiet moments, those darker moments, as the season now reminds us how important that is. Next time you hug the knees in, give yourself that giant hug again. Hold elbows, almost elbows. Bring your nose, your forehead to your knees. Squeeze it all in and squeeze it all out. Release your head to the mat. Release your feet to the mat. And now find that rectangular blanket that if you lowered down with, you most likely had to remove. And now we'll place it back between the knees and the ankles. Your arms will come out to the side, wrists pretty much in line with shoulders, and both knees will move to one side. So my head is down, pressing down into the mat, and my gaze is straight up to the ceiling. My knees are pretty much in line with my hips, so notice if your knees are lower than your hips, can you slide them up? Not too high. And then you have the choice of gently lifting your head and turning to the side away from your knees if your neck is looking for a little more release. And move anything out of your way that might be in your way so you can rest evenly. Slow, steady breathing. And then your head comes center, your knees come center, and you'll bring the knees to the other side. Knees in line with your hips, wrists in line with your shoulders, gazing straight up to the ceiling, and gently turning your head away from the knees if that's what works for your neck. Remember, we want knees across from the hips, not lower than the hips. So slide them on up if they're lower. And this is a spinal twist, which is super nice for the spine, obviously. Put your shoulders and your hips. Slow, steady breathing. And you can do this before you're going to sleep at night and even before you hop out of bed in the morning. And then your head comes center, your knees come center. And let's give that another big hug in. Hold your elbows, almost your elbows. Pull your nose and your forehead to your knees. And then release the blanket, release the feet. And now we'll bring those blocks a little closer. So if you don't mind, you can reach overhead and pull them closer by. And then I like to turn to one side and set them up. Let's see, I'm actually going to set them up here so you can see what I'm up to. So my first block, I'll start on the first level. You know they have 1, 2, 3 levels. And if you don't have a block, try a cushion or a pillow, something more firm and beneficial, but if you work with what you work with, right? And then let's see about the belt. So if you have a really long belt or some kind of strap around the house, find that, or you could roll up a towel even and see if it will work. And let's see what we want to do here. The belt moves around your waist, and keep the hardware, if it has, some have plastic, some have metal, near your knee just so it's within reach and sight. And bring the other end of the belt near around the foot, and then you'll see my belt is really short, so I have to work with what I have. And so the belt is still around my low back, it's around my feet, the soles of my feet are touching, and I'm going to take the plain edge of the belt and push it through underneath the hardware. I have 2 loops. And then the plain edge of the belt, I'm just switching it a bit so I have the hardware closer to me, to my hip. The plain edge of the belt goes over one loop and under the other, and then you pull. And then you might feel like you can keep this position with your legs, which we call, it's a Baddha Konasana, a cobbler's pose or a bound angle pose, moving into a turtle pose, so my feet aren't so close to my body, a Kurmasana. So you'll be able to tighten this when you need to. And then we'll just slide around, have your layers nearby, and now we'll move down onto the blocks. So if you have someone near you, they might be able to help you situate this block underneath your shoulder blades. So not your low back, but directly below your shoulder blades. And then once your shoulder blades are propped up, you're going to prop your head if you want to. So some of us play with it and see what you want. Really love our head to be lower than our heart. Some of us do not like this at all. It doesn't mean that there's anything good, bad, indifferent, wrong about any of us. It's just our preference and what our neck needs now, and our shoulders. And I'm finding what my neck and shoulders need now is something very different than what they've needed in the past. So my great lesson here is to listen to that, and I can feel that I want to tighten this belt a little bit now that my head is supported. So I'm going to do that little pull there, and that will hold my legs just so. And if you don't have a belt and you don't want to do this with your feet, you don't have to. And now I'm noticing my head really, instead of being in line with my heart, would like to be higher than my heart. So this is restorative yoga that we're giving ourselves here. And it takes a little bit of experimenting. And actually, now I'm noticing that I want my head to be really lifted off my heart. And if I can get the edge of the block at the base of my skull, that actually feels really good. We call that the occipital lobe in there, right? And I'm even going to give my head permission to release side to side a bit. So it's like a little massage there. So remember, you're allowed to change this so it works for you, right? This is what is working for me right now. What works for you might look completely different, but you know your options. You know what you have to work with. And then after a few to several breaths like this, you'll see if your legs want to stay, or maybe you'll bring the feet a little closer, undo the belt, and let your legs rest with your feet flopping away from each other a bit. And then you can cover up with any layers you have nearby. As the body is still, it's important to give it warmth. Let your feet flop away from each other. Let your arms and hands flop a bit away from each other. Slow, steady breathing. Releasing fingers and toes. Resting ankles and wrists. Knees and elbows release. Hips and jawbones rest. Tongue resting gently in the roof of mouth. Imagine all the muscles in the face releasing, relaxing around the mouth, the nose, the eyes, across your forehead even, maybe a clean paintbrush or feather moving side to side, washing away any of the hurries and worries, the would'ves, should'ves, and could'ves. All around your head, your neck, your ears, your shoulders, releasing. Gently beginning to wiggle your fingers and your toes, and to round your ankles and your wrists in one direction and then in the other, to give your body a good stretch. Your thumbs hook, you reach through your fingertips and your toe tips, and as you bend the knees, you can start to bring your hands closer to your side. When I'm up on the blocks, I like to give my arms a little push and my hips a little push to the side and then roll to the side. You may feel like you want to press down and lift up, and we'll be with you there in a moment. That's called the Shavasana effect, I think, when after we rest, sometimes our mind is in a different place, and maybe that's a good place, right? And then your top hand presses down and you lift back up to your seat when you get there. If you want to rest a little while, please, no hurries and worries. And then you could take one of these trusty blocks, if you have one, and place it under your seat, and just notice that boost for your seat gives your hips permission to have the lift. And then we lift up and out of our low back, which so many of us are in, right? Our low back and our shoulders. And so if we have something to press down into, we have permission to open up more. And oh, we need that opening. And if the belt is bothering you, you can remove it now. And again, if you want to, one of my teachers always impresses upon us to keep our spine warm. One of the goals in yoga is to keep the spine youthful, and that's a very different idea than the lotions and the potions that look so fancy on the shelf in the store that we're tempted to create miracles with. And so inner youth, right? Intrinsic. Let your hands rest open and receive all of that good, peaceful, resting energy you've just created for yourself and therefore for others. That energy is contagious. We are responsible for the energy we bring. And that is not said to create shame or fear or guilt. It's an invitation to practice. Oh, and it feels so much better to say it with a smile on my face, so I usually pack a little pocket of emergency sense of humor to help me through. Breath of fire, your navel center will pull in and up like a pump. It's a soft pump and it moves quickly. You're pushing the exhale through your nostrils and the inhale will automatically happen. Nice big inhale. Slow, steady exhale. Inhale more than you think you can. And begin. Slow, steady exhale. Slow, steady inhale. Breathing. Beautiful breath to guide us. Your right hand makes the backwards letter L. Your index finger and middle finger come down. Your traditional ring and pinky stay up. Your right thumb closes right nostril. You exhale left. Inhale. Close both nostrils. Pause a moment. You exhale right. Inhale. Close, pause, exhale left. Inhale. Close, pause, you exhale right. Inhale. Close, pause, you exhale left. Inhale. Close, pause, you exhale right. Inhale. Close, pause, you exhale left. Inhale. Close, pause, you exhale right. Returning hands to heart center mudra. That was alternate nostril breath to balance the brain, the hemispheres of the brain. I want to share some sounds with you. I have them on the chalkboard, so I'll be right back. The sounds regarding abundance. These are the seed sounds for abundance. Can you see them here? Yeah. So Om, you know, yoga sound, O-M-A-U-M, encompassing all the sounds of the universe according to the ancient Sanskrit scripts. Hrim, Shrim, Klim, Hrim and Shrim having more to do with abundance, Kleem having more to do with change. So welcoming perhaps an abundance of change, an abundance of what you're seeking, an abundance of what you need. Sometimes we don't know what we need. We just need to put it out there so it can find us. And Rumi would remind us that what we seek is seeking us. So I always welcome people to join in, or simply to listen, or to mentally recite. So just different energies, completely up to you. When we bring left and right palm together, we're balancing the brain again, because that's what happens when we find center, right? Center space. So join in, listen in, mentally recite Om, Hrim, Shrim, Kleem as you wish after inhale. Om, Hrim, Shrim, Kleem. 2 more. Om, Hrim, Shrim, Kleem. 1 more. Om, Hrim, Shrim, Kleem. Slow, steady inhale. Slow, steady exhale. Bringing hands to heart-centered mudra. We call it Anjali Mudra in Sanskrit. Satnam, truth, namaste. I honor you. You honor me. We honor each other. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om peace, peace, peace. May you have an abundance of peace. May an abundance of peace surround you and fill you and guide you. Thank you for sharing this little practice with me. Happy harvest wishes to all. Be well. Until next time.